Hey there, boils and ghouls. It's your friend Terror and Tats. I'm back with a different kind of video. You know, I realize I've been doing a lot of movie reviews. I've done movie reviews on my old channels. I've done movie reviews for body bags and things like this. I've been doing this for quite a while. But one thing that's actually occurred to me is I've never done a book review. And to quote Ice Cube, it's like yeah, man, I ain't no criminal. I can read, bitch. You know, and I do read. I do like to read books, and I've read quite a few this year. Most of the time, I think if you remember from my very first video, I said that I don't really own a lot of physical books. Most of my books I have on my Kindle or audio books and things like this. But I do read, and once in a while when I can find a really some nice books for a good price, I still pick up some physical books here and there. But that's something I kind of realized, like, I'd like to take a stab at is I'd like to try to do a book review finally. And the book that I'm going to talk about is The Exorcist by William Peter Blatty. And, I really enjoyed the book. I'm a big fan of the movie. I know a lot of people might be like, well, dude, if you've watched the movie, because Blatty wrote both the book and he did the screenplay for the movie, why would you need to read the book? And I know a lot of people would be like, "Well, I watched the movie. I don't need to read the book." But I enjoy reading, the book, even if I've seen the movie from time to time, because, like, not everything that's in the book will make it into the movie, and or something, like in a case like this, the book is formatted a little bit differently than the movie is, and but yeah, I think it's fun just to find out the things that you miss and some of the things you didn't know, unless you read the book yourself or you hear secondhand or things like this. For a good example is like Psycho, and I'll get to that. I'll see about doing a book review for Psycho. But yeah, it's the book. I mean, everybody knows the story. The story is about 12-year-old Reagan McNeil. She lives with her mom, Chris, and she starts playing with a Ouija board. They live in Washington, where her mom is working on a movie. The book, very much like the movie, opens up in Iraq, and we're introduced to Father Marin, who realizes that he's going to have to, he's an exorcist. He's, he's a priest. He's been around. He's done a lot of things, and then he realizes that he's going to have to, do battle with demons again, and ultimately, come to save this little girl. But then we end up, meeting, Reagan and Chris McNeil, and the book starts off, similar to the movie. Chris, it's the middle of the night. She's, rehearsing her lines for the next day, for the movie she's shooting, and she starts hearing noises in the attic and things, and so she gets up and she goes and. She's looking around. So at first she thinks that they have, rats in the attic. So she tells Carl, the butler, that, like, hey, we have rats. And of course he's like, no, we don't. We don't have rats and all this. And well, we got rats. So just get some rat traps and stuff. And then, one thing that was definitely different from the book than the movie is that in the book, the sections with Chris and Reagan are far, it's not it doesn't juxtapose as much as it did in the movie. It's like there were a lot of scenes, like the scenes with like Reagan and Chris they're still there, but it's kind of like the jumping back and forth between Chris and Reagan and Father Karras, definitely becomes is stretched out further in the book. Like there's bigger sections of Chris and Reagan, then you have a section of Karras. Then you go back to Chris and Reagan and things like this. And, it's kind of hard to say because the movie does, it is a really good adaptation of the book. I would still recommend reading it just for the fun of it. I kind of wish I had been around. The book came out before I was born. Excuse me. And it is, in a way, I kind of wish I had read the book before I watched the movie. But I watched the movie like when I was like 7 years old. Funny story. It's like, I kept, like, my brother is scared to death of that movie. He can't watch it. Never could, never will, doesn't want to. He hates, the makeup on Linda Blair's face, and stuff like that. And, the face just creeps him out and everything. So, and it was funny because I kept hearing about it. I was one of those kids, like when they said, you don't want to watch this movie or you don't want to read this book. It's so scary and everything. I was one of those kinds like, if you told me that, it just made me want to watch the movie even more. It made me want to read the book even more, that kind of a thing. So, I remember back when you had VHS stores and rental stores and things, I kept pestering my mom and everything else, tell her I really want to see this movie. And finally, she was like, "Okay, here's the deal. You're going to watch this movie. We're going to put you in the living room. You're going to sit down. We're going to turn the lights out. You're going to sit here. You're going to watch this movie all the way through. And if you get scared and you have nightmares, that's your fault. Don't even come crying to us about it. You're not sleeping with us or any of that kind of stuff. So I was like, okay." And I think either number one, either I'm absolutely insane or I didn't really understand, everything about the movie and everything, because I remember watching the movie and there were parts of it I thought were absolutely hysterical, especially with, when she's becoming possessed and she starts cursing and saying dirty things and all this kind of stuff. And at one point, I think my mother was really concerned because she came into the living room. I'm sitting there laughing and she's like, "Aren't you scared yet? Don't you want to shut that? No, no, leave it on. This is great. I love this," and everything. She's like, "Oh my Lord, this kid is so messed up." But anyway, so yeah, I do enjoy the movie, and the movie is, very faithful to the book. About the biggest, about the biggest differences that I recall from the book and the movie is just that Lieutenant Kinderman, in the book has a much bigger role than he does in the movie. He's there, but he's not there that much. There's a kind of like a little subplot kind of a thing going on where Carl the butler and his wife Willie, they're working for Chris. They work as like her housekeepers and things like this. And Willie, they have a daughter. Now Willie, she thinks that their daughter is dead. But we come to find out that Carl is actually going and visiting the daughter. He says he's going to, he's going out watching movies. But he actually, what he's doing is he's going and he's seeing his daughter. And his daughter, she's she's selling her body and she's, a junkie and she's on drugs and everything else. And so he goes and he like gives her money and tries to see if he can like talk to her, try to see if he could help her to get into, maybe going and getting some therapy and things like this. And at one point, because Kinderman suspects Carl of having something to do with Burke Denning's death in the book, hopefully, I should have said spoilers a long time ago in case if you've, but yeah, spoiler alert. But at one point, Kinderman thinks that, Carl has something to do with Burke Denning's death, so he catches Carl and then, they doesn't end up arresting him, but he catches him and wants to talk to him. Basically just wants to know if Carl has any kind of information about Burke Denning's death, that kind of a thing. Another big difference that one thing I noticed too was that there were certain lines in the book, The Exorcist, that did not make it into the movie, The Exorcist, but they did end up, I don't know, I haven't read the book Legion yet, but I don't know if William Peter Blatty, wrote these lines again in Legion, or if he just, yeah, this was in The Exorcist. I didn't put it in The Exorcist. I'll just go ahead and take these lines and put them in here. There's a part in the book where Father Dyer goes into Karras' room and he's looking for lemon drops. And Karras is like, "What are you doing?" I was like, "What are you looking for?" It's like, "Look, man, I'm looking for lemon drops. I need lemon drops." And he says the line like what, Dyer in the movie Exorcist 3 says, I once spent a year of confession listening. I once spent a year listening to kids' confessions and they keep breathing it on me. It's like little weirdos, they keep breathing on you. And it's like, ever since then, I've become a lemon drop junkie. So it's like, he's like always got to have lemon drops. Another thing is this was in the book, The Exorcist, that made it into made it into Exorcist 3 is where Kinderman talks about, the fish swimming up and down in the bathtub, and he's like, if I see it, I'm going to kill it, that kind of a thing. What else was there? Oh yeah, the line about like, the cops that I work with, oh, what a bunch of guys, on the entrance exam for new police officers, they say, "What are rabies and what would you do for them?" One of them said, rabies are Jewish priests and I'd do anything I possibly could for them. There are things like that. Like another thing that I thought was interesting was that I didn't know this until I read the book. One thing I thought was interesting was that when the exorcism starts, when Karis and Father Merrin go in to start the exorcism, in the beginning, Sharon, Chris, the mom, and Carl, the butler, all three of them, they're in the room when the exorcism begins, but then over time they decide they can't take anymore, so they leave. Then it just goes to being, Karis and Father Merrin performing the exorcism. Another thing I didn't know was that, when you watch the movie The Exorcist, the exorcism takes place in the movie, it takes place in like one night. Whereas in the book, the exorcism takes place, I believe it was several days. And at one point, Marin, I think, asks Karis to go back and get something for him. So he goes back and he's like ready to take a nap because they're both exhausted. They're not sleeping. They've been doing the exorcism and everything else. And so he's thinking about it, but then he finds out that Karis finds out that Kinderman is here, so he goes down and he talks to Kinderman. And so, this kind of like gets him, oh man, I need to go up there and get back into the exorcism and all this stuff. So then he does, and that's when he finds Marin dead, and things like this. So there was a number of things that, were different from the book, not too much different. Not that, it's not, after reading the book, it was like, yeah, it was great to get those other little tidbits of information in there. I don't honestly think that it would ever, take away from, my love of watching the film. The movie is very well adapted. It is a very good, pretty close adaptation of the film. And, still, but, I am glad though. Some people might be like, dude, don't you feel like you wasted your time reading the book when you saw the movie? No, because that's part of the fun of it. It's like, if you see a movie and then you find out there's a book, part of the fun of reading the book is to see what, if anything, is in the book that you might have missed in the movie. And then, like learning these things, learning that like in the beginning of the exorcism, that Chris and Sharon and Carl were actually in the room with them. And then ultimately they leave. Also is interesting to find out that it was interesting to find out that the exorcism didn't all happen in one night like it shows in the movie, where in the book, it takes place over a number of days. So I thought that was interesting. So yeah, I don't feel like I threw away my time reading the book, and I enjoyed it. And, I recommend, if you're, I don't know, now that you watch this video, well, you just told me I don't need to go read the book now, but, I would still say, curiosity's sake, yeah, go read the book. It's really a good book. If you like audiobooks, I like audiobooks. If you like audiobooks, it's free on YouTube, and it's read by William Peter Blatty himself, and he does a good job. So, but anyway, yeah, I definitely recommend pick up the book, The Exorcist, and read it. Even if you've seen the movie, I would definitely say give the book a chance. It just kind of, it's kind of almost like looking at it with fresh eyes, but still. So anyway, this is my first book review. Hopefully I was entertaining enough, and hopefully, I was like, I'll try to. That's the thing. I've been doing movie reviews for so long, so now I gotta try to figure out how to do book reviews. So we'll see. Hopefully, as time goes on, I'll get better at it. So that's it, everybody. Take care, and have a good night, my boils and ghouls. I'll talk to you later.